All right, take two. So it's a 2007 Chevy Tahoe. It's got a 5.3 in it, 310,000 miles, 760. It has a Misfire, and this has a interesting backstory. I gotta get this cut on, but the owner wound up having to get it towed from Florida, which cost him $1,600. And here I'm in North Carolina, so he had to get it towed back in this area. And while he was down there, he had a misfire that he could not get resolved. So he spent more money throwing parts of that arbitrarily. It's not a, it is a hard miss. It's just, I think he replaced everything but the necessary thing, obviously. But this is why it's important to diagnose things and see what we're dealing with. He replaced the spark plugs, wires, a fuel injector, mass airflow sensor. I know I got the information wrong. I had this logged in and just, hold on, let's get logged. Oh, you know, my VCI isn't down there. I can't remember where I was saying. It's crazy because even though I'm recording, I just failed to go back and look at what I was saying to finish the story. We're dealing with misfires though. The car just have some misfires. Like I said, the owner tried replacing some things with no avail. I'm probably gonna get back on track. So we replaced the ignition wires, spark plugs, one fuel injector, mass airflow sensor, and probably some other stuff. But he did have a timing chain done as a preventative maintenance from what he told me, which doesn't make any sense. And that was before all this happened. So he was down in Florida, car started having some hesitation. He tried replacing stuff, didn't work, got it towed back home. The tow truck driver that brings stuff to me told him, hey, bring it to Brad, here it is. So we're gonna go through a diagnostic strategy. So we verified the complaint, or I did. I'm gonna show you what that is. It is hesitating to misfire. Here's the reason why we have to have bidirectional scan tools, because I'm in the generic portion now, but when it comes to trying to isolate problems, the main thing we want to do is get very specific to the cylinder that's in question. That's the main thing. So in the generic portion, you're going to look at p0300. That's what he had. That's what messed him up. Well, that could be anything: fuel, fire, compression, and wiring related stuff related to the fuel and fire. Anything. Then we got evap, pressure sensor circuit. I'm going to say that's irrelevant. Random multiple misfire, and we got evap. So the main thing we're dealing with, the complaint, is the misfire. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to go back out, and we're going to go into the bidirectional portion. The factory bidirectional portion is going to give us more in-depth ability to isolate the cylinder we're dealing with that's called into question. And how to do that, was the Tahoe automatic under. It's going to ask me one more. I don't know. Oh, I think that's I want to say width. Yes, it's a 4x4. Yep, 4-wheel drive. Because mainly I just need this misfire information. The main thing we want to do is isolate the cylinders, and to do that, we're going to have to go to misfire data. Let me start it up so you can hear it. It is in fact missing. So let me shut it down. We're gonna go to diagnosis. We're gonna go to control unit. We're gonna go to engine control module. We're gonna go to active test. GM was generous enough to give us misfire graph data on these older vehicles. This is why it's very important to have bidirectional tools. Let's start it up, and we're going to look at the cylinder contribution. So this is all our cylinders, and we're just going to look for drop-offs. Well, instead of drop-offs, we're going to look for surges. I'm so used to all the other ones just dropping off. There's your fine line there, but then it'll drop off. So we're dealing with cylinder 7. Let me show you one thing right quick though. What's interesting, so cylinder 7 is misfiring. Let's go back out. Let's go into, what did I go before? Where did I go to before? I think, was I on special functions? I think I was, I want to say I was in there. Let me just take a look at this right quick. Yeah, here I was. So if you noticed before, cylinder 7 was the main culprit. But look at this, cylinder 2 is still populating. I wonder if that's because of how the engine is balanced. It's the V8. So I wonder if that has anything to do with why it's affecting. Oh my gosh, can we focus please? Thank you. I wonder if it's because of how it's balanced and this is just the byproduct of a primary misfire, but this is something to look into. What we're gonna do, let's fix the one that's blatant. See, cylinder 2 has a significant amount of misfires. Cylinder 7. Let's go into cylinder 7 that's blatantly missing and just pull the ignition coil and see what happens. Worth going to cylinder 2 also, pull ignition coil, see if we see any contribution. We should be able to see the cylinder drop off. If it don't drop off, that's our problem. If it do drop off, then it's not our problem. So let me run over it again. If I pull cylinder 2 plug and you don't experience any sort of change in misfire, that's going to be the issue. If we do experience it, then that's not, odds are very high. Sometimes we can have a weak coil causing our problems here. But let's go to cylinder 2. We're on the passenger side. Here's cylinder 2. It did change just a little bit. Let's go to cylinder 7 over here. Let me get something to stand on. That's why I hate trucks. Cylinder 7 is going to be back here. Let's pull this. It didn't change. Power back in. It changed, but it wasn't significant. Let's create a misfire with the cylinder 5. It changed. Clear it up. Let's try it with this one. Yeah. It's not significant, but it has a lot of cylinders. Look at this. Look how loose that is. I mean, obviously this is a sign somebody was back here before. These aren't grounded out by the housing, so that's irrelevant. But I will definitely tighten that back down. What I can do, I got a lot of options. The simplest thing I can do, swap the coils from one side to another and see if the misfire moves. So if I swap this bad one here with number 5, then logically we should see the misfire graph go over to number 5. Let's do that because it's simple. I don't feel like pulling out any oscilloscope and check and see if it moves, because if it works, and meaning if I change that coil to number 5, the misfire moves to number 5, then the recipe for working coil is all on number 7 and we're fine. So let's change the coil. Mark on the suspected coil, and then I'm just going to get the proper tools to pull this off. I can just use my hand at the moment. I got the parts that he tried to replace in the box. I don't know if you saw that Duralast box, but that was the parts he used. Now I can show you that later. I didn't have to use any tools to pull that out. Let me smell it. Doesn't smell burnt or anything. Nah, doesn't see. I don't see any signs of cracking. Huh. All right. Let's grab this one. All the bolts are loose. Oh wow. I didn't break that. that was already broken. I mean, obviously, because of the signs of somebody already been back here, should be a clear indication that I didn't do it. Hey, look, so if this continues to misfire, the plan is to now start getting a little bit more in depth, checking powers and grounds, checking for good signals, and then that's when we have to use the scope. But I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to make things more complex than what it is. It just doesn't make any sense to use technology when you don't have to. So I got that one. Pop this in there. Technically, this coil should be replaced too, technically. But it's not going to pose any arcing conditions, so I'm going to leave it alone. The owner did suggest, you know, to replace all the coils, and I kindly declined to do that because I don't like changing parts arbitrarily unless they're honorable mentions. And secondly, if you look at some of my videos before in the past, you'll know that there's been plenty of times where we've got bad brand new parts, and also you'll see that I've scoped 20-year-old parts and they perform better than parts right out the box. I'm just gonna connect this. We're just gonna look at the data first, and then we'll tighten these up. All right, let's go and see if our misfire has changed position. All right, we're on misfire graph. This sound like, if because it's stalling, it could have been cylinder wash, could have been. So let's see here. We still got issues on cylinder 7. And then number 5. Hold on. So unfortunately, our misfire has. What in the world? Why is it still doing that? So unfortunately, our misfire has moved to 5.2, but it's still on 7 very hard. So let's go to number 7. Before we didn't have misfires on 5. Let's go to 7, pull the plug out because it's probably fouled. Jeez Louise. Like the spark plug is loose. I could turn the spark plug out by hand. Let me try this neighboring one on cylinder 5, because loose spark plugs will cause misfires too. Ouch. This one's okay. I can't turn that one out by hand, but I'm gonna leave that alone. It's looking like we may have to pull out the scope to check the overall health of the coil if this spark plug isn't bad. Well, if it's bad and the misfire don't like correct on this cylinder. So if the misfire is still aggressive on this cylinder, let's see here. This wet, it is filed out pretty bad. Hold on. This is, so we've probably been dealing with the misfire for so long that it just filed out. It smells like gas. So the logical thing to do is to swap everything to a neighboring cylinder. This right here will definitely cause misfires. If it's been misfiring for so long. Oh, you know what? I do have my spark plug tester. Doing some remodeling. So the bad plug is on the right. Fuck it, let's just open it up. Who needs safety? The bad plug is on the right. Here's a decent one on the left. See, if I got it on low, you can see on the right, Plug is barely working. Look at the left one. I'm gonna turn the RPM down. Left is working. Right side barely working. Yeah, we need some plugs too. Let's clean this one, swap it with 5, but I'll rather just go ahead and put the new plug in there because we could have just been dealing with bad plugs the whole time. If the owner changed his own injectors and changed his own stuff, he likely screwed something up. And look at the ground, it's just cocked too. Why is it cocked? Unless he tried the old school method of pre-gapping his own plugs, which they shouldn't be. You just throw these right on in there. Yeah. I went ahead and took number 5 out. Look how fouled out it is. And these are the brand new plugs that he put in, allegedly. Oh gosh, please fall. I gotta get my magnet. These were new plugs he put in. I wonder if that coil that I put in, because weak, it had an influence just to foul out just really, really quick. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna clean this with a wire wheel. See what happened. Mind you, he also put in a new mass airflow sensor. So with him putting in new parts, he probably created some problems. And again, he put in a brand new fuel injector too. The fuel injector's down here in this box. I gotta get this stuff together to get it out, but the injector's gonna be down in here. I think it's in this box. He replaced a lot of miscellaneous stuff. This is a AC Delco one. I mean, and I've had stuff fail. Brand new parts fail. So I'm not gonna act like these are great parts. I mean, hell, these are OEM plugs. AC Delco. So that should tell you something too. It doesn't matter if it's OEM or not. They just need to do their job properly. I get what people are very particular about aftermarket or off-brand stuff. I get it, but the functionality is what's important. And again, I've had brand new factory parts fail too. So take how you want. Let's change the plans. I wound up switching number 5 with number 7. And I'm gonna put number 7 and number 5. Look at this though. The new injector he put in is on number 7. So it's a possibility. It looked like, am I wrong? That's the cleaner looking one out of all the other ones. That's the cleanest one. So it's a possibility that's what a new injector is. Let me make sure. Yeah, all of them look dirty except for that one. That's the cleanest looking one, number 7. And then look how clean the spark plug is, but it was clean though. It smelled like fuel. So it looked like we may be dealing with leaky injector, even though it's new, or probably a bad head gasket or something, because it's clean. It shouldn't be clean like that. It could have been something during installation where they screwed up on. Who knows? Let's just swap the plugs, see if the Misfire gets better on 5, because we have a standard, and we're gonna dig a little further into number 7. Let's try this again. So Misfire on 5 seems to be still there. 7 still having a misfire. So I changed the plug wire, plug and coil, and the misfire still on 7. And the other variable is they didn't change the injector on that side too. So it's worth inspecting the pins, but the plug looked clean. Who knows? Who knows? Let's inspect the injector. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's go to our fuel trims, because what I'm thinking is if the bank that's affected should be leaner. Fuel trim we're on bank 1, so long term is 0. Okay, let's just see what the initial readings are for bank 1. So they're higher. That's O2, bank 1 sensor 1, bank 1 sensor 2. So we're dealing with the rich condition. With a possibility we're dealing with the stuck injector. Look how rich that is on 1 in comparison to 2. Might be dealing with the injector because it was wet. The injector was wet. Misfire is hard. Swap the coil ignition system on over. but I did not test for proper control. So we're still on the ignition system right now. I need to make sure I have good power, ground, and signal though to conclude, hey, we're dealing with an ignition system problem or an injector problem. Because if that fuel is getting injected but not combusted because of lack of fire, we're dealing with fire related problems. So let's finish checking for fire, and because we swapped everything we could with the standard at work, and then we'll go from there because we need power, ground, and signal. But before I do, I forgot this is a ignition wire system. I don't have to use a scope because I can take I can use my test light to determine if it has power coming from the coil. That's what I can do. I forgot all about that. I can stuff this in here. And if it's firing, I should be able to see it through the test light here. And I don't like getting electrocuted, so I'm going to use something that's plastic to hold this. It's not firing. Oh God. Huh. Stupid me. It's not gonna fire because it's not plugged in. Golly. All right, let's try this again. Yes, it's firing. Let me shut it down. That's great. I know somebody may wonder, well, why was it going from the piercing pin to the hose? Well, the path of least resistance is in coolant too. If you ever heard of electrolysis, that coolant is a conductor. So there's fluid in there, which is a conductor, and then we have a cast iron block, if I recall properly, which is going to have metal inside of the coolant. So we have fire. Uh-oh, don't break this. So we have fire. We need to see if we got too much fuel. Remember, it's rich right now. So as far as it combusting, it is. We need to see if the injector is stuck open. What I like to do, disconnect it. If it runs better, then that's going to be our problem. Let's see if I can get this out of there. Let's pull this out first. And, oh, I got that lock on top of it, right? How do I remove this? Oh, is it on the side? No. There we go. All right, we got that out. Let's pop this back in. If it runs better, it's a possibility we got a leaky injector. So I put my hand in the back of the exhaust, and it smell like condensation here. It doesn't smell like raw gas, but we're still rich, so it's not looking good. I'm gonna take the spark plug back out, put the camera in there, see what the cylinder looks like, because we may just be dealing with, again, a stuck injector or low compression at this point in time. Just pulled out number 7 spark plug, and it is wet again. I think we're dealing with head gasket problems. It smells like coolant. It's time to put the camera inside of there and look at those cylinder walls at the fire ring, because it's not looking good. So I'm just give you an update. I got the camera down in here, and let me tell you, I've been turning this engine, bumping it over, and I got the exhaust valve to open up several times, but at no point have I ever seen the intake valve open. So it looked like the valve cover is going to have to come off, and the rocker arm assembly is going to have to be inspected. I'm gonna let the customer know that it's going to be additional cost for that, but I haven't seen this valve open at one point. I'm gonna turn it over by hand and see what happens, but nothing. Well, check this out. I wound up rotating the engine, and let me show you what I found out. The intake valve simply isn't opening up here. Check this out. There's our intake valve. There's our exhaust valve. That's going to close. Next stroke should be the intake stroke. Look at what happens. Look at that. Nothing. So the main thing is we got to call the customer and let them know, hey, we got to pull the valve cover and do a little bit more inspection. And because I didn't know this had the cylinder deactivation. I'm not a Chevy guy or anything. Not so much a Chevy guy. I don't work on a lot of these. Reasons being because there's so many other specialists around here. So this is actually my first one that has a lifter problem. You know, could it be a bent push rod? I don't know. Could be a rocker arm. I don't know. We got to pull this off and see why our intake valve isn't opening. Let me call the customer and let them know the price difference. I do have the okay to pull the valve cover off from the customer, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, but I'm gonna take a break at a moment, go get me some food, because I ate all day. And again, I'm not sure if this has the cylinder management system. I don't know, but I just need to, I'll find that out while I'm doing my thing, taking a break and let my batteries and all that stuff charge up. So when you see it next, we'll have this valve cover off, and then we'll see what this rocker arm look like. Best case scenario, the bolt strip out the rocker arm, and all I gotta do is replace it, but I doubt it. So got the valve cover off, and check this out. So I think we're dealing with a collapsed lifter. I'm gonna spin this engine over, see how it do. So we're coming up on the intake stroke. Push rod's coming up. So it should be on the same time as this one here on this exhaust stroke. It's up, but it's not coming all the way. Yeah, now it's going down again. Yeah. Let's pull it out. So this is fine. Push rod isn't bent. I can take it and roll on a flat surface, but it looks perfectly fine. I think we're just dealing with the collapse lifter. I mean, that's all it is. The only thing I can do is quote him for a lifter replacement on all these banks. So we're gonna have to do, I'm gonna do everything. I pushed it down. Let me see how far it'll come up. Spin it all backwards. Yeah, that's as far as it's going. It needs to be higher than that. Yeah, let me just quote him, because I mean I don't think there's no point of going any further when we know what we're dealing with. And I'm kind of at a loss at the moment, because this is it. I mean, we saw that the intake valve's not opening. That's the causation of our misfire. So the guy could have honestly replaced everything he wanted to under the sun. You know, as many injectors as he wanted, as many coils as he wanted, as many wires and spark plugs as you want it, and this is the spark. This I said spark plug. That's the fuel injectors replaced, and it's not going to fix it. So this is why it's important just to make the assessment, see what we're dealing with, because this costs no money to put parts at it. You just gotta pay for time. That's it. So we know what he needs. He can get his mechanic, I guess his other guy, to fix it, the one that did the timing chain, but he knows what needs to happen. I really don't want to do this job anyway. I'm not a V8 guy. I don't like V8s. I just don't. And so I'm gonna price accordingly. Hey, this is what it's gonna cost to do it right. Worst case scenario, you gotta put a camshaft in it. This was have to happen. You can either say yay or nay, but it's not like he doesn't have alternatives. It's been about an hour or so later, and just to give you an update on the vehicle, I still got a truck here, the Tahoe here, but we talked about a price, and he does have somebody else that can work on his vehicles besides me. This is a new customer. So I did tell him, you know, maybe your guy can get you in a better situation than I ever could. We're preparing for the worst case scenario is that's what I'm thinking about, because if it does need a camshaft, well, guess how much it's going to cost for me to have to do that. Now, his guy that has been working on his vehicles, and I'm just taking into consideration, usually they're older heads, older people. I mean, if he can put a motor in and he done the timing chain on his vehicle, then he can do, you know, worst case scenario, the camshaft at a better, more economical price than I could. So I did suggest, you know, let your guy know. I'm going to give you a written up estimate of what it needs. I mean, it's just a lifter. He can pretty much put that in there, but you got to take in consideration, this is a 310,000 mile engine. How much does a person want to put into this? Now, this vehicle do look really good. He kept that vehicle up, and he got that far with that mileage by keeping that oil change on a regular. So, you know, I mean, I can give him a price. I can about guarantee you, even with the estimate, he was only willing to spend about $2,000 in there. But me buying, just want to go through do everything right, it's going to cost a little more than that. And then worst case scenario, if we need a camshaft, you know, it ain't easy. And I got a lot of other things I want to work on. And thirdly, I kind of don't want to work on anyway. So I got my hands tied with a bunch of other stuff. I'd rather work on 4 cylinders. I love 4 cylinders. So and check out issues and stuff. So he got his money worth checking out what's going on, and he's gonna let his other guy know. He's gonna come pick it up tomorrow. We're gonna settle and just kind of go on about life. But he do have a vehicle which they put a motor in, and strangely it don't run. So I don't know. I'll be pretty interested to see what's going on with that, diagnose that, see what's happening. It ran before they touched it, and now it's not. So I don't think that'll be pretty interesting. But anyway, I digress. This truck has a very common problem. I don't do with that. That's my first time ever, actually, out of over 10 years of working on vehicles, having to deal with that, diagnose that. Never had to. And well, I'm not a V8 guy. Most of the cars you see I'm working on, like Hondas, Acuras, 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders type stuff, and with the VVT system and stuff like. Most of the people that deal with Chryslers, Chevys, there's plenty of specialists around here that do that. And again, it's a lot of older generation. I'm only 38. Most of the older crew are staying confined in that V8 realm. A lot of people are doing V8 swaps. I don't do modification. I just do factory stuff. I don't do nothing crazy unless it's something I grew up with. So like the Integra, maybe I'll consider doing some stuff. I do have a video where I did an engine swap and do some fabricate. I don't know how to charge for that, and it becomes paradoxical. So I prefer not to do that and just deal with factory stuff only. Because if I only have issues with factory stuff already as it is with the aftermarket world and factory stuff, imagine the complications and issues you're gonna run into with the aftermarket. So, with that said, I don't care to work on V8s, but I do. Anyway, if anything happened, I'll definitely update. Hit the link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, how to reach some work. I'll see you on the next one.